Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Exodus chapter 20, you have Moses. He's up on Mount Sinai and he receives the 10 commandments, or what is also called the Decalogue. And he receives these 10 commandments from the Lord. They are personally written on the stones, and these would become a sign or a summary, you could say, of the covenant that God made with Israel there at Mount Sinai. But then he proceeds to give more detail on more particular things that he wants the people to engage in and the things that they should refrain from. And it's interesting the way these particular commandments are arranged, and especially the first two commandments, or the first two categories of commandments that we see. The very first thing that he gets into in chapter 20, after giving the 10 commandments, is the proper worship. Of course, the 10 commandments start with them not having any other God besides him. And verses 22 through the end kind of reinforces that idea to say that they were not to worship other gods. And not only that, when they built their altars, they were supposed to build them in a particular way, without any type of fancy carvings, or, they were just to use earth. And if they did use stones, they weren't supposed to carve anything. In other words, to get as far away from an idol, anything carved or made by human hands, in connection to worship of Yahweh. And so the first thing that they had to consider was the proper worship of God, and doing away with idols and serving Yahweh and only Yahweh, and worshiping Yahweh and no other God. And then in chapter 21, surprisingly, the very first thing that is in connection to, chapter 20, the one that we just talked about, was from man to God, laws in connection to worship from man to God. But then in chapter 21 begins between man and man, and it begins with servants, different commandments and laws in connection to servants. And one of the things that God is very clear on is that if you have a fellow countryman who is your servant, they can only be your servant for 6 years. And then on the 7th year, you have to let them go. However, if that servant had acquired a wife and he really liked his master, he had the ability to stay with the master. It talks about that in verse 5 of chapter 21. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go as a free man, then his master shall bring him to God. Then he shall bring him to the door of the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him permanently. And so there's this way in which a person could remain a servant. If he had a good master, he had acquired a wife and children there while under the rule of his master, and he says, you know what, I don't want to be free. I want to stay with him. He could tell his master would take this awl and basically ram it through his ear into the doorpost symbolizing, of course, the household of the master, and the ear symbolizing the fact that the servant would listen to the instructions of the master and be bound to the household of the master, being pierced to the doorpost would. And so here you have worship and servanthood tied together here early on, after the 10 commandments are given and when these various particular laws are given. And this is kind of the basis of our approach to God. First, we have the proper worship of God. We honor him as our only God. We rid ourselves of other idols and other things that would take the place of God, whether it's things that would take the place of our love for God, other things that we might love above God or beside God, or the trust that we have, things that we might trust in other than God, and not giving God our ultimate trust, and putting our trust in maybe people or things, as opposed to ultimately putting our trust in the Lord. And of course, worshiping anything that would take the place of God. That's the beginning point. When we come to the Lord, we come to him with the recognition of the fact that he is the true God, and that we are aligning our lives to him, and that we are putting him first above everything else. But then also we present ourselves as servants of the Lord. And not just servants of the Lord, but voluntary servants of the Lord. We say, you know what? I love my master. I love the God who has redeemed me. I love the God who has forgiven me. I love the God who has given his son to die for me. And therefore I willingly come to him for him to be my master. And I willingly become a servant of him to serve him all the days of my life. And as such, I want my ears pierced. I want my ears pierced with the awl. That is, I give my ears to listen to the commandments of the Lord, to listen to the instructions of the Lord, so that I may follow him. And at the same time, to be connected to the household of God, and to join myself to the household of God, to become a part of his family, but also his servant, to serve him and obey him all the days of my life. And I don't want to be freed, because he's a good master and I want to serve him. And so these are really good thoughts to think about in connection to our relationship with God. And today, let's reflect on this. Have we truly served the Lord, or are we truly recognizing the Lord and worshiping the Lord as our only God? And do we exalt him in our hearts above everything else? And secondly, are we serving the Lord? Have we given our ears to listen to what he has to tell us, and submitted to his rule in our lives, and saying that he is a worthy master to follow, and I willingly and voluntarily serve him because I love my master, I love the things that he's done for me, and I'm committed to him. These are some things that we can reflect on as we do our reading today. And with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.